What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Raphterra YouTube channel. The last time you saw me, I was still playing Legends of Runeterra, but for the past almost 2 years, I have been playing the One Piece card game as a competitive player. So I participate in competitive tournaments as well as I create content for my subscribers on MetaFi. Today's video will be me reacting to a title belt match called the Emperor's Gauntlet between the winner of Supernova Rumble 1, Meikel, and the winner of Supernova Rumble number 2, which is myself. So just to give you a quick background, the Supernova Rumble is a weekly tournament held for my MetaFi community, and the winner of these Supernova Rumbles get a chance to challenge the title holder or the defending champion of the Emperor's Gauntlet. This is the first Emperor's Gauntlet match ever between myself and Meikel, meaning that this match will determine the first Emperor's Gauntlet champion who will be defending the belt against the winner of the next Supernova Rumble tournament. Without further ado, let's begin. So we're looking at game 1. So just to provide some context, this is a best of 3 match. We each brought 2 leaders each. So I brought Green Bonney and Green Mihawk, and Meikel brought Green Mihawk and Red Blue Ace. The first person to get 2 wins wins the match. If you already won with a leader, let's say I won with Green Bonney, I cannot use it anymore for the rest of the match. So I have to win with both of my leaders. So game 1 was a mirror match. It's a Green Mihawk versus a Green Mihawk mirror match. Which is not surprising since my MetaFi is mostly comprised of green players. So I expected to have a green mirror match of Mihawk against Meikel. Let's begin. So let's look at the opening hands. I think Meikel went first here. And his opening hand is pretty strong. 2 Bonney Searchers as well as 2 9-cost Mihawks. Bonney Searcher gives him the ability to absorb aggro, which means I will lose any chance of getting aggro back because he's already going first, so he has aggro priority, and I have to try to take that back usually with a Bonney Searcher. But given that he's going first with 2 Bonney Searchers, he has a very good chance of winning the aggro battle and never letting me take it back. And another good thing about his hand is that it has 2 9-cost Mihawks, because at the end of the day, this is a boss versus boss battle. So the player who usually plays more bosses wins the game. So I think Meikel will keep this opening hand. And now looking at my opening hand at the bottom, it's not looking too good. Law and Beppo is the most important late game card in the matchup, but I have nothing to play in the early game, especially going second. So I should mulligan this hand. I think I mulligan it because I need to look for some early game plays. Law and Beppo is not bad in the opening hand, only if you already have a solid early to mid game. So I am likely to mulligan this hand, and I think Meikel should keep his hand. The other good thing about 1-cost Bonney Searcher in the mirror specifically is that aside from absorbing an attack from leader, it also allows you to search for your late game Law and Beppos. So I did go for a mulligan, and I found a 1-cost Bonney Searcher alongside a Carrot, which is not bad in the mirror. Carrot can freeze down 7-cost Shanks. I also found myself a Stage, which is also quite good. So here I played my 1-cost Bonney Searcher immediately because I want to make sure that it will absorb an attack from my opponent's leader, from Meikel's leader. So I opted to rest her immediately, because if I wait to rest her until later on, there's a chance that Meikel might play a Hidden Killer that will be allowed to hit into it. However, Meikel has a very strong response with the double Bonney Searcher, so this means that I will never get aggro priority in this matchup, because I will need to attack this Bonney twice. Meanwhile, Meikel can start attacking my life cards already here because I'm out of Bonney. Also, my 4-Dawn play was a bit weak. It was only a 4-cost Zoro, which is not ideal. Usually you want your 4-Dawn play as a Mihawk to be like more Searchers, Hidden Killers, Bonney Searchers. Meikel goes ahead and plays a Perona in order to stop my Zoro from attacking his Bonney Searcher, which means my leader attack is once again forced to go into the Bonney Searcher, putting him even further ahead of the aggro ways. However, he did rest his Perona, which allows me to use Carrot on it, which will slow it down quite significantly. So that kind of slows down the aggression. So this Perona will be slowed down for at least another turn, assuming that it stays on board. And now it's Meikel's 7 Dawn turn. The best play for him here is probably to play 6 cost Law alongside a 5 cost Freeze Bonney to freeze my Dawn. Oh, no. He's going first. So he doesn't need to freeze my Dawn actually, because it doesn't stop the 7 cost Shanks. So he just opts to go for the Secret Rare Bonney play to draw and filter his hand. It's still quite strong. So, and searches with the Kid and Killer. Takes the Bonney stuns. Looking at the hand, he has 3 bosses right now. 9 cost Mihawk and 2 9 cost Mihawks and 10 cost Law and Bebo. He will have the priority of playing a 9 cost Mihawk first, which is huge in this matchup. However, I am still in this game because I'll be the first player who will put down the 7 cost Shanks, because he doesn't have 7 cost Shanks yet. He just played 6 cost also. I will be the first one who will play a boss card, which gives me some time here, even if I am slightly behind in the aggro race. I believe I should just play down the Shanks here, rest the Law, and then use Carrot to attack one of the rested characters and freeze the other, further slowing down the aggression. However, I should just play Shanks here, right? However, Meikel will be the first one to play a 9 cost Mihawk, and 9 cost Mihawk is a great answer to 7 cost Shanks because he will just stay rested. Stay active, I mean. I cannot rest him anymore as long as 9 cost Mihawk is on board. And for now, the game is still pretty even. So we have 3 boss cards each. I have Shanks and 2 low Bepos. Meanwhile, Meikel has 2 Mihawks and a Law and Beppo. I would say it's still an even game right now. Probably I'm a little bit ahead at the moment because I was the first one to put down a 7 cost Shanks. It will depend on the following draws, whether me or him draw more bosses, and how much we can lock down each other's bosses. I think I'm slightly ahead at the moment because I have 2 Law and Bepos. However, the 2 Mihawks will be tricky to handle because he will likely play them consecutively in order to disable 2 of my bosses every turn. And now he's going to attack into the Carrot. I will block with my Zoro blocker there because Zoro blocker isn't too important anymore in the late game once they can just stop his resting. I'd rather remove the blocker there instead of wasting 2 hand cards to defend against the 9k attack on the 6k attack. So me drawing the Mihawk is actually huge here. It gives me a Mihawk that can answer theirs. It makes it so that I'm not forced to use Law and Beppo there, and I can save Law and Beppo for a later turn. However, this is where I think Meikel gets ahead because he now has 2 9 cost Mihawks on board. And the thing with 9 cost Mihawks is that if there are 2 of them, one of them will always be able to lock down one of mine because I can only stun one of them every turn with Law and Beppo unless I draw another 9 cost Mihawk. However, in my hand, I don't have another 9 cost Mihawk yet. So my Law and Beppo will lock down one of their Mihawks, but the other will be free to disable. my win condition here would be to hope that my opponent has less Law and Bepos than I do, so that I'll be able to um so that they won't be able to lock down my board continuously. So this is a critical decision point in the match. So I have a decision here whether to attack into the Mihawk or attack into my opponent's life. And I think I did ultimately here decide to use my Dons to attack into my opponent's Mihawk in order to starve their hand. I believe that's what I chose to do so. But I think this might have ended up being incorrect because my opponent has two Mihawks and it's very easy for them to just turn their hand cards into 2k counters, which means it was basically impossible for me to take out the Mihawks. However, I was stuck here in a position where I was hoping that they ran out of bosses faster than me, so that's why I went for this play. So I was able to ask for two cards out of his hand, I believe, and I'll be able to push for 1 life damage. He should just take this. Electrical Luna is there. So I think looking at the hand states now, I am still ahead because you know what? It's actually quite even because I am ahead by a bit because I technically have 4 bosses on board. And now it's basically I need to hope that they don't have another Law and Beppo because these two Mihawks will be a problem. They'll be able to lock down 2 of my bosses every single turn. My Mihawk basically will always get disabled if Meikel is playing it correctly, and he is doing it. So right now, 2 of my bosses get disabled, Law and Beppo plus Mihawk. And then meanwhile, Luna is also a great play for Meikel here, stopping my aggression, stopping my Shanks from hitting him. I am forced to use Law and Beppo to disable their Mihawk. And then here I think I start hitting life. Or did I still continue to hit the Mihawk? I think I should just start hitting life here. I wonder what I did. Because hitting the Mihawk is a little bit futile. Yeah. Just start hitting life here. And I think it was an incorrect decision by me to not hit life earlier on my previous attack, because yes, I was able to force out 2 counter cards, but by hitting the Mihawk, it makes it easy for them to counter very efficiently. Whereas if I directed my attacks towards their life cards, I probably would be able to put them down to lower life earlier, and I would be able to ask for more counter cards by consequence. But with the way that I played earlier, I gave a lot of value to their counters. However, I still like my chances here, but I need to be able to draw more lockdown because right now my opponent, we basically have no more bosses in hand. But Meikel will have 2 Mihawks that will be able to disable 2 of my bosses. Meanwhile, most of my hand cards are just counter cards right now. He also has 2 5-cost freeze Bonnies that can be used to freeze my low Beppos. It comes down overall to who can play more bosses in the late game. Meikel is able to lock down my 2 bosses here. 3 of my bosses. Does he lock down it? Oh, he locked down all of my bosses except my low Beppo, and he freezes my Don. Heads up play prevents me from playing another low and Beppo. However, here I am put in a little bit of a difficult spot because I'm out of law and Beppos and I have a huge barrage of attacks coming my way. However, I have 5 Cosperona that I can use to disable their two 5-cost Bonnies, and I can use another 5-cost Bonney to draw. And that should probably be what I would do. I would start pushing life here. I searched first with 5-cost Bonney. See what I would draw. I think I misplayed here. I think I should have played the 5-cost Perona first in order to disable two of the attackers from the 5-cost Bonnies. I'm not really sure why I didn't do that. Perhaps I was thinking of doing an all-in attack on one of the Mihawks. But that's actually what I did. Fine. Okay, I was going to do an all-in attack on the Mihawk. I understand it, I guess, because I am at 2 life. Would it have been better to just disable the 2 Bonnies with Perona and just start going for life? Because if these Mihawk lives, these 2 will be disabled forever. Then they have 4 attackers. Oh, I wanted to empty his hand cards, and he did empty his hand cards there to defend. Which I think was still an okay outcome for me. He ended up getting an Apu from Trash. Oh, and a clutch Law and Beppo draw from their top deck. And here, the 2 Mihawks will disable my Shanks and my Mihawk. And then he can poke me down and then lock me down with 10-cost Law and Beppo. So I do have to hope for a lethal the following turn. And I think this is what happened to this game now is a consequence of the turn where instead of attacking life, I attacked 2 10k attacks towards the opponent's Mihawk. Whereas if those 10k attacks would have been directed to leader, Meikel would have been down to maybe 1 or even 0 life at this point, and I can start pushing lethal. However, because I valued board control too much during that turn, I'm being punished here, so I am behind because of the 2 Mihawks that are on board. But because I didn't go for life, I lose an opportunity to win the game on the clapback. With his Law and Beppo draw, this seals the game for me, I think. There's no way for me to win if my 2 of my characters still get locked down here. Yeah, he just locks down 3 of my bosses, giving me no way to win. And I'm out of Law and Beppos. I'm out of counters. And the game should conclude here in a bit, unless I get a miracle draw. But I think I won't. If I remember correctly, I won't. Meikel also played very, very well, deciding to defend the Mihawk with all of his hand cards, just throwing away all of them to make sure he lives and closes out the game. Very heads-up play for him to recognize that it was go time. Especially since he did not have any more bosses. So every boss that stays on board is critical to his game plan, especially since 9-cost Mihawk staying on board is kind of equivalent to him basically removing one of my bosses every turn. Here, I think I was just wondering. Oh, he's still going for the 8k. And I cannot give him my hand here. I have to draw for life and hope I find something. But it's looking pretty bleak right now. And with that, I don't have any rush characters, although he only has one card left in his hand. I don't have a way to go for game here. I think I tried searching something with Perona, but it still didn't work out. I searched with Bonney, and then I did an all-in attack to kill one of their Mihawks. However, with two 11k attackers and two 6k attackers, which they can spread Dawn to, there's no way for me to defend this. A very good game of Mihawk Mirror. I think my main misplay was the turn that I attacked two 10ks into Meikel's rested 10k Mihawk. I think this was winnable if I recognized that I should attack for life at that point in order to put me closer to lethal if I needed to. By directing my attacks to my 10k attacks to a rested 10k character makes it very easy for them to counter, and I lose any opportunity to win in the late game when the bosses ran out. Heads up play for Meikel though. There were consecutive turns where, aside from the 9-cost Mihawks disabling two of my bosses, he was also able to utilize 5-cost Freeze Bonney, Electrical Lunas, and 1-cost All Out to stop me from getting any attack momentum, freezing my 7-cost Shanks. Great heads up play by Meikel, slight misplay by me. So right now, after this game, Meikel won with Mihawk. So he cannot use Mihawk anymore. He must use Red Blue Ace in the next match. And I have a choice of using either Green Bonney or Green Mihawk in the next one. So we are now proceeding with Game 2, where I chose to stick with my guns, still play Green Mihawk, and Meikel decides to go and play Red Blue Ace, a blast from the OP13 meta, OP13, OP14 meta. This matchup is favored for Green Mihawk historically. And I even have a 5-cost Tashigi back in my build. I was teching my Mihawk build specifically for the mirror because I was expecting a Mihawk mirror. That's why the 5-cost Tashigi is here. So historically, 5-cost Tashigi is a very strong card in the Red Blue Ace matchup because she's a key card that cannot be bounced by 6-cost Jozu. However, the rest of my hand cards, looking at it, I think I'm going second here. Meikel won the dice roll on the first game, so I get to decide the turn order in the second game. So I'm going second here because I want to steal the going second curve away from Red Blue Ace. And if I keep this hand, I play Tashigi on 6 Dons, then I don't have any other place. So even if 5-cost Tashigi is good in the Red Blue Ace matchup, I opted for a mulligan here. Meanwhile, Meikel's hand, I'm not a Red Blue Ace player, but I will try my best to assess his hand. I think he should be looking for Jozu, but I guess with Otama, he opted to keep a hand, and Yamato as well is a strong card going first. You can play her on 5 Dons immediately in order to draw 2 cards and use your leader ability. I mulligan for a hand, so the good thing with my hand is that I have Loen Beppo and 9-cost Mihawk, which are 2 bosses. However, I don't have too many good plays yet for the early turns, so no searchers, no anything like that. However, I do have Perona and Carrot, which are decent plays on 6 Dons, but the problem is they are both just bounceable by 6-cost Jozu. So whichever card I end up playing here will get bounced by 6-cost Jozu. However, the nice thing with 5-cost Perona is that she stops the Yamato from attacking. And I'll be able to attack him for 8k here. I rested the Perona just to tempt him to attack it. Maybe I'll be able to save a counter card if they attack into it, and I can simply play Carrot. But looking at their hand, they do have Jozu, so it makes their next turn pretty straightforward. Just play the Jozu, bounce the Perona back to hand, attach Don to your leader, and attack for 7k. So this Jozu play puts him very ahead of me because he has two characters on board, a 7k and a 6k attacker. Meanwhile, I have nothing, empty board, and I'm also starting to go down to in life. So I think I'm forced to counter here. I need. Okay, I opted to take it because I didn't have a strong 8 Dawn play. I was hoping to find a 7 cost Shanks or anything. Maybe a 6 cost Law. But I think I didn't have 6 cost Law in this build. So I ended up not finding anything. And without 7 cost Shanks, it puts me very behind here. Because with 7 cost Shanks, I can rest one of his characters and hit into it in order to gain back some board presence. But right now, it's a very weak play. It's basically an 8 Don Perona play, which is not very strong in the grand scheme of things, given that his next play will likely be an I am Whitebeard. It puts me in a very vulnerable position here because I only have one Law and Beppo in hand. I also just wanted to play Bonney Searcher there in order to search for more Law and Beppos so that I can lock down their bosses. However, the problem here right now, I only have one Law and Beppo so far, and these Aces and Jozus will be hitting hard. I think if he really wanted to, he can maybe ignore the one cost Bonney Searcher, but he still ends up hitting it. I think there would be an argument that you can just hit life there. Here, I'm forced to defend, I believe, because I don't want to go down to 1 life too early, especially since their new gate will be coming down on the following turn. And then I'm assessing my hand here. I only had one Law and Beppo, which I will need to use to lock down their Whitebeard leader. And I think I ended up... What did I ended up attacking here? I think now that I'm looking at the match, I think I should start attacking leader more aggressively here and start setting up lethal with Deadman's game. But did I ended up hitting the Jozu? I can't remember, but I think I should start hitting leader. Okay, I did start hitting leader in order to set up lethal. But he has a 1 cost counter event, definitely a spicy tech for Red Blue Ace. I did not expect that. So he only needed to use 1 card to defend from my 9k attack instead of using 2 2ks, which is quite a strong play for them. And now with 3 Whitebeards, so I think they just play Whitebeard here. Maybe they'll even consider taking life. Okay, they did take the life, turn their leader into 8k power, making my Law and Beppo attack less effective. Also, it makes it such that I cannot attack with my Perona. Saves them counter cards for the most part, and it allows them to pressure me. So right now I am a 7k leader, but I have a huge barrage of attacks coming my way. I am forced to defend for dear life. And looking at Meikel's hand, he has a decent number of counters. So I need to draw Law and Beppo here in order to stay ahead. But I also cannot go down to 1 life because if I don't have Law and Beppo, I'll probably lose the game the following turn. So I do not have Law and Beppos here, and now I'm faced with a decision here whether I try to delay the game a bit further with 9 cost Mihawk, or should I try going for the game with Deadman's game. And I think I ended up going for Deadman's game because I calculated that I will not be able to survive the long game here because they have two new gate attackers. What did I ended up doing here? I think I shouldn't have attacked the Yamato. I think if I was going to go for game, I should have just attacked leader and ignored the Yamato. I could have saved the Perona attack for something instead of attacking the Yamato at all. I forgot what I went for here. However, looking at his hand in high... Oh, I did actually play it so for one more game. I think what I did was fine. I can go for Deadman's game next turn once I have 2 Mihawks on board. Once I have a Mihawk and a Law and Beppo on board. I think it's fine. I think my play was fine. It's still a fine decision in order to whittle down on his hand rather than going for game. And I rested the Perona to tempt them to attack into it. I think that was my mindset here. It was a very risky game to go for lethal there. Meikel very smartly is attacking my Mihawk right now. He's trying to get a hand read. And I cannot sacrifice my Deadman's game here. Because it is my win con, but very smart of Meikel's to start taxing my hand. He has probably read that I already have used a good amount of counter events earlier to defend the prior attacks. And now he's going solely for my Mihawk. Smart play for them. I don't have enough to defend my Mihawk here, which ended up winning them the game. Because it will be very difficult for me to even go for a Deadman's game lethal if I only have one boss attacker. He ended up attacking my Perona, challenging the Perona, checking if I still had enough counter, if I still have a character to play from hand. And thankfully, I did. I did have 5 Ghost Bonney here. However, given the amount of counters in Meikel's hand, he is super safe. And at this point, I don't have any more plays left except for Deadman's game. And hope to go for the lethal. Very heads-up winning play for them to target my Mihawk, to target and attack my Mihawk. Making the read that I probably don't have any more counter events because I used a lot of them earlier. And now I go for Deadman's game. I try to go for lethal. So I'll try to attack with my Bonney and then my leader and hope that they don't have counter. But looking at their hand, they do have a lot of counter. Even this Edward Dugate is a 2k counter for them because they can just use their leader ability to discard it and give a minus 2000 power to my leader. So I did end up going for a 12-14 play, I believe. So I'm just gonna go for 2 big attacks. But they have it. 8, 10, 12, 14. They have a lot. They actually have a lot. And from there, it's GG's. I believe I allow him to go for lethal here in order to enjoy the fruits of his labor, playing 3 12k Nugates. I allow him to finish the game instead of just straight up conceding. Nice. And with that, I lost. I fall to Meikel 2-0. So he played really well in this game in particular, recognizing the window to hit into my Mihawk, I think was a very critical part of why I lost. He played, I think he played a perfect game here. He used his Jozu efficiently to bounce my Perona, and then killing my Mihawk, recognizing that the only way he loses is if that Mihawk stays alive given the number of counters that he had in hand. If he gets rid of the Mihawk, no way he's losing because I was already so behind. So with that, congratulations to Meikel for winning the first ever Emperor's Gauntlet. Meikel is the first ever champion of the Emperor's Gauntlet, and he will be defending his belt against the winner of Supernova Rumble number 3 next week. If you are interested in joining this tournament series, I call this the Raphterra Championship Series, consider subscribing to my Metafy, where you get access to a private Discord of green specialists, green mains, green loyalists, One Piece players who play green, and you also get access to a lot of guides. I will be creating I already have guides there for Green Mihawk, Green Bonney, and I'll be creating a guide soon for Blue Green Luffy, the latest leader from OP16. This is my first YouTube video in a while, so sorry for the quality. I just want to put something out there. It's not necessarily the highest quality that I expect from myself yet, but I will be improving with each video. If you want more, please do leave a like, share, subscribe. The next Emperor's Gauntlet match will also be published, so stay tuned for that. We are still waiting who will be Meikel's opponent for the next Emperor's Gauntlet. I'm excited. I will try again in the Supernova Rumble in order to maybe try to get a rematch, get my revenge against Meikel. With that, thank you. Bye-bye.